Hey, Brian, how are you?
Good, Dan. How are you?
Doing well, thanks.
Good.
There's been a lot of talk about halftime adjustments. And I think it was earlier this year, Micah Hyde said that not a lot happens at halftime. It's not some big rah-rah movie type speech that happens. Is it just a sense to everybody catch your breath and maybe give you, like I guess I just want to know like what kind of the minutia that goes on behind making those adjustments and what changed?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think every game is different. Sometimes you have more time at the end of the second quarter if the defense is out there to kind of get a head start on things. Other times you don't have as much time, so things happen pretty quickly. We usually meet together as a staff and then go out there and talk to you can only give them a few main points each game. You can't give them 50 different things. You're always talking about doing things in between series. There's adjustments in between series, and sometimes those take a little bit longer than other times. But our job is just go in there and try to simplify it as much as we can, and that's what we try to do.
Thanks, Brian.
Yep, you got it.
Hey, Coach, Chris Brown here.
Hey, Chris.
Coach McDermott, after the game last night, said, you guys in the first half were trying to spin the dial a little bit to try to find some more concrete answers, move the football, stay on schedule, et cetera. My question to you is, when you're spinning the dial, how much of that spinning is within the scope of the game plan you came into the game with, and how much might be outside of that scope that you're just pulling things from your playbook, but maybe weren't practicing ad nauseum through the course of the week?
Yeah, again, another game by game deal. Look, you plan and prepare during the week for things you think you're gonna get, and look, inevitably it's pro football. There's going to be some different things that you get week in and week out, and look, you can't have a play for a specific coverage on every play. Like that's just not the way it works for us. You're going to have 1,000 different plays. At the end of the day, we got to make good decisions with the football. And then as the series go on and you kind of get, all right, this is the formula, this is what they're trying to do. And this is what we're trying to do. There's audibles that take place. There's, maybe alerts that we add to certain things. Again, they played a lot of blitz zero yesterday, something that they did in the past, but they did it a lot. So again, we're talking, coach to coach on headsets, and we're relaying that to the players. And, at the end of the day, the players are the ones out there making the plays.
And in those situations, Coach, how creative do you allow yourself to be in terms of what to turn to now in year 4 with a large percentage of these guys that you have on offense?
Yeah, whatever we think we need to do. I don't know if it's called creativity. It's just we're trying to be as intelligent as we can to give our players an answer. And again, it's helpful to have a quarterback that you've been with for 4 years who has seen a lot of different things and understands our system. And I was real proud of the guys, the way they competed and they hung in there. And but this is a National Football League. You're going to get adversity. During the season, you're going to get adversity from game to game, series to series, play to play. And you got to have a positive mindset and be dialed in and focused and disciplined and what we need to do. It's not always going to go perfect. Could happen at the beginning of the game. Could happen in the middle. It could happen at the end. You're never going to have a perfect game, but the right mindset in terms of focus, intensity, discipline, communication, and then ultimately execution. I'm very thankful for the guys that we have.
Thanks for the insight on those answers, Coach.
You got it.
Hey, Brian, it's Thad. How you doing?
Good, Thad. How are you?
Not bad. Last week we talked to you about the red zone issues, and this week seemed to be corrected 3 for 4, and even the miss wasn't really a miss. You're trying to get a field goal there. The question I want to ask, though, is when you have a group of guys like you have that are largely veterans, largely successful veterans, guys that know how to do what you want them to do, how do you make the corrections? How do you bridge the teaching and the pushing and whatever you have to do when it's a group of guys that know how to do it, as opposed to in college or with a much younger group on offense?
Yeah, I mean, just that, Thad, I think you're authentic and honest with what we need to do. I mean, there's mutual respect between, I would say, our coaches on offense and the players, and myself with the coaches and the players. No one has, everybody's able to be honest on what we need to do and how we need to do it. And I think that's important. The communication factor, authenticity consistency, because it's not always going to be perfect, right? You're going to have bad series. You're going to have a bad play within the series. It's, again, it's the National Football League. Every team is good. Any given Sunday, take a look at the scoreboard around the league. This is not an easy task for anybody, because the talent level is the top of the world. And then you got to do a good job of communicating it. And you can, when I'm younger back in the day, you could over communicate it so much where it leaves these guys cloudy. And I have a lot of trust in the guys that we have. I'd say both players and the coaches that deal with them as position wise. And, we just try to be crystal clear on what the standard is, the expectations, the adjustments we need to make. And it's a two-way street too. You have a lot of confidence in the guys that you have, which I certainly do. The give and take, I think, is important on a team. They're the ones out there, they see it. You can see it on a tablet and all that thing. But, I have a lot of trust in the guys that we have.
You talk about being authentic. Is that something that's easier with veteran guys? Because to me, it would seem like you can be too authentic with a young guy that might not have the confidence that nobody's doing yet in the league.
Yeah, I think that, again, as a coach, it's imperative that you are who you are. You communicate the way you do, and you're consistent with these guys. And that's what I mean by authenticity. I think, you just have to be real with these guys. And again, this is a longer discussion, but in terms of the type of people that you bring in and what they stand for, and, the trust and respect and accountability that you can build with one another, I think that goes a long way. Obviously plays are critical, but players are more critical.
Thanks, Brian. I appreciate your time on that.
You got it.
Hey, Brian, Josh Reed here. Thanks for taking a few minutes.
Josh.
Hope you're doing well.
Sure. You too.
How would you assess the way the offensive line played, considering you had to juggle so many pieces there? Obviously Spencer Brown's not there, so you have to kick Williams outside. Like Bucker goes in, you have to flip Feliciano to the other side. How do you feel like, considering all that was thrown at them, how they did?
Yeah, I think they battled, and I think it's our fourth year together, and you always get questions like this during training camp of moving guys in and moving guys out. And he was here one day and he was here the next day. And I think it's, probably reported more so in any other position group where they're playing. They battle, they communicate it well. Just like every position and every coach, we could have done some things better, but I got a lot of appreciation for, the effort and the intensity that they played with throughout the game.
One last one for you. With the trade deadline coming up Tuesday, I understand that that's Brandon Beane's office and that's what those guys take care of. But from a coaching standpoint, when you're midway through a season, not quite midway through the season, and there's a new piece that suddenly shows up, have you ever been in a circumstance with a team where a new piece shows up and you go, all right, I guess I got to find a way to use this guy, and how kind of a delicate balance is that when you kind of know what you already have in the room?
Yeah, no, I've been part of that a lot in this league. There's, that happens a lot, whether not just at the trade deadline, but at, any given Sunday when they're adding pieces or subtracting pieces. And our job is to get them prepared as we can for that game. And really that's kind of how you do it is, you get a new guy in week 2, week 4, whatever it may be. They're missing all the foundational pieces in terms of what you believe in as an organization, what you believe offensively. So it's kind of like it's a race to get them ready to go for that particular week. These guys, most of them have been around this league, and the veterans you have on your team know that it's a week-to-week league, and that's including rosters too.
Hey, I'm sorry. I do have one last one for you. I don't want to take up too much of your time.
But, all right.
When you see a guy like Derrick Henry go down, and, obviously we saw a couple of weeks ago how important he is to that offense, and he's going to be down for a while. I asked Sean this as well. You can X's and O's up all you want, but how much of this is a little bit of luck and just trying to stay healthy every week?
Yeah, I think the health of a player is paramount to the success of a team. You're going to have attrition throughout the year. And again, that's why you try to build depth in your roster so that those guys are ready to go. Obviously, thoughts and prayers to Derrick. He's a heck of a player. And, you have great appreciation for these guys that, you see him every day at practice. You see him walking out of the airplane or walking in after a game. And it's a physical game. It's guys moving really fast, hitting really hard. And, some of those are just freak injuries. Others, are contact injuries. And you feel for all these guys because of what they put into it they're competitive and they want to help the team out in any way they can. So, our job is just to get the next guy ready, but there's still, there's empathy towards those players that happens to. You never want to see that happen.
Thanks, Brian. Appreciate your time. Thanks. Appreciate it. Have a good week.
You too.
Hey, Brian, it's John.
Hey, John.
A bit of advice. Throat coat tea, they'll get that voice back in order in short time here. It's a miracle.
I went out with the kids trick-or-treating, so I was yelling with them.
But I'm telling you, throat coat tea, it's a gold mine, instant work.
All right, good.
I wanted to know if you could help me, I guess, understand the delicate balance as a play caller when something's not necessarily going right or effective early on, and balancing, all right, we're going to abandon that, and while also saying we're going to stick with it because we need to do it or we think it can be effective later.
Yeah, that's a good question. There's a lot of things that go into that, John, throughout the game. First of all, you got to understand why it's happening or what you're getting. And, was it, the left guard tripped the center on accident and this play wasn't any good, or the receiver ran the wrong route or the quarterback ran the wrong read. It's not, you're not sitting there changing everything you do throughout a game. You're making tiny little tweaks or adjustments. Maybe you're running something on the backside that wasn't great for that particular guy, so you're going to do something else, or the player comes back and says, hey, I got him on this. Great. Okay. Again, I think the big thing is trusting your coaches, trusting your players, having good communication process throughout the game, and then tweaking things as they go. It's make it more difficult than it needs to be.
Do you think yesterday was maybe a perfect example of the unselfishness and readiness of your offensive skill players, where Diggs and Sanders not necessarily as involved, and now we see Davis and Beasley involved and Sweeney in there, and that also kind of showing the wide range of what you guys are capable of doing, if not everyone is technically, whatever, on full cylinders or on the stat sheet.
Yeah, I mean, and they understand this, and that's why I appreciate them so much. Is they're really good players, they're good veterans, and they're good teammates. I've said this plenty of times. You guys have heard it. There's one ball. You get it to one guy. It's Josh's job to make sure that he gets it to the proper guy. Cole obviously was that, and that doesn't mean that Steph or Emmanuel wasn't open or anything like that. It's just that's kind of how the game went, and we like to be able to be versatile in terms of the guys that we use. Does it happen every week? I remember a couple of weeks ago it was Cole Beasley wasn't part of it, and then it was these guys, and then Dawson Knox wasn't, and you run them. I mean, that's the nature of offensive football. You try to, use all your guys, but it's all their jobs to go ahead and do a good job in the passing game to get open, and then Josh is going to read it out and throw it to the right guy. It's about as simple as that.
Simple as that. Thanks, Daves.
You got it.
Hey, Brian, it's Elena. How are you?
Hey, good, Elena. How are you?
Doing well, thanks. Kind of going off John's question, I was curious, from your perspective, what worked well with getting Cole involved yesterday, especially in the second half? Why was that working?
Because he was getting open, which, again, you get different coverages. And look, if you're heavy inside, you're using outside guys. To make it as simple as I can make it for you, if you're heavy inside, you're working outside. If you're heavier outside, you're working inside. And Cole has such a good knack. I mean, we're very fortunate to have this guy. He's just an unbelievable player. He sees things. He's incredibly smart. Got quickness, hands, dependable, tough, smart. Just because he didn't get a million balls the other game doesn't mean he wasn't doing his job either. And that's why I have great admiration for, I'd say, the three veterans that we have, and it kind of trickles down to all the younger guys with Gabe. And look, everybody wants the ball as a skill guy. If you didn't, there's something wrong. But they have such a good amount of respect with one another, that at the end of the day, our job is to try to win. And they all can contribute to helping us win. Sometimes it's by number of catches. Sometimes it's by other things. And it's, blessed to have those guys.
And then one thing I was curious to ask you about, in the first half, there were times Josh was visibly frustrated on the sideline, and, that's normal. And we've talked about how he's hard on himself. Then he kind of really pulled everything together, and did well in the second half. How, over your time with Josh, have you seen him do better, not letting those in-game frustrations not derail things?
look, he's grown a lot. If he's going to be upset sometimes, let him be upset. I'm going to let him be him. He's hard on himself in terms of when he gets mad. Look, he was feeling it pretty good too on that quarterback run and some other things where he was kind of fired up. And that's what makes him a good player too. He's gonna deal with all that in his own head. He wants to be mad and frustrated and mad at himself. Sometimes you got to pull him back a little bit, but usually he knows how to get in and out of it. He's done it for going on 4 years here. I got all the trust in the world in him. So if they want to play Frank Sinatra over the loudspeaker, that's okay too.
Thank you.
You got it.
Hey, Brian, kind of along those lines, Josh, other than dressing up as Phil Mickelson yesterday, talked about the phone call that he had with Phil and that the team had during training camp. What was your takeaway from that call?
No, it was awesome. One of the best golfers. He's sitting there on a cart and he's got the trophy right next to him and just cool and smooth. And him and Josh are kind of going back and forth at it a little bit, talking. It was it was pretty cool to hear a professional that's so high up in his profession from another sport too. One of the luxuries we get here.
Yeah, I bet it was. I don't know if you can sense my jealousy through the phone, but it's
there was some good golf questions too. Guys were asking about putting and things like that. No, it was really cool.
Yeah. And then secondly, Cody Ford, he's maybe had a tough go of it here lately with kind of going the wrong way on the depth chart, but now you got a couple guys banged up on that line, and it could be this week where, we'll see what happens with the other guys, but it could be this week where he's right back in there. How has he handled those swings? How do you help him handle those swings from a mental standpoint as much as a physical standpoint for a young player?
He's done a great job. True pro. One of the guys works really hard to improve, goes in there and makes the most of his opportunity, but he's a pro, Jay. We got a lot of them on our football team, and again, he's going to try to do whatever he can do to put himself in a position to help us. And, right now it was on the look team, the last couple of weeks, and, we'll see as it goes. But he's done a really good job in his role.
Thanks, Brian.
You got it.
Hey, Brian, Sal from WGR. How you doing, buddy?
Hey, Sal. Good. How are you?
Yep. I'm good. John's right about the throat coat. I've been there many times before. So. So I want to ask about adjustments. I know people have been, it's kind of a theme today, but so during the game, things aren't necessarily, you don't have your A game, things aren't going maybe the way you want them to. How do you balance maybe, hey, let's just get to halftime before we make adjustments versus let's start doing some things and pressing the issue a little bit? Does that depend on how your defense is playing, what the score is, all those kinds of things?
Yeah, I'd say we try to adjust in between every series. You take a look, the first thing that we do is take a look at our problem plays, what happened, because you never know when you're getting the ball back. It'd be a quick turnaround with the defense to try to get those fixed and corrected and make sure everybody's in alignment on the same page. And then we talk about the next upcoming series of things we're doing. Look, early on in the game, the game really hasn't declared until the first few series anyways, like, oh my gosh, you're doing all this. And then the next series they come out. So you got to be careful on that too, jumping the gun. But we're constantly evaluating, I would say, and communicating in between series. There's never really a time scale where we're going to say, look, let's just wait until we get here, because sometimes that's too late. But the game has to declare. And again, you're in. I've talked about this before. You're in different parts of the game, like in the first half. Okay, there was a few things here or there. I think we were 1 of 5 on third down, 5 of 7 on third down in the second half. I mean, that was a contributing factor. But at the same time, we just go ahead and make sure we're trying to do our due diligence. And look, the game's going to declare how it's going to declare. It's a 3-3 game. You're going back and forth. Obviously, we want to score in every position, but that just happened to be earlier in the game. Sometimes it happens in the third quarter. Sometimes it happens in the second quarter. So try to keep a level head, be consistent, and do the best job we can.
All right. Thanks a lot, Coach.
You got it.
Hey, Brian, it's Kim Jones. How are you?
Good, Kim. How are you?
Good. I interviewed Josh after the game yesterday in the hallway, and he mentioned at halftime you using a few choice words to kind of get them in gear for the second half. He said that in answer to when I mentioned 23 second half points and what changed things. He said you, and I'm not asking you about the language because that part I can guess, but here's my question. With a fairly veteran group like you have, not everyone, but fairly veteran group, how often can you go there with them, particularly at halftime? Because I'm guessing the answer is not every week.
Yeah, I think that coaching is about relationships too. And when you have good relationships with your players, you build trust, you build respect, you build accountability. And your job as a coach is to try to figure out not just the X's and O's, which is obviously important, but a lot of the other things that go along with it. I appreciate Josh and all that stuff, but the credit goes to the players for going out there and executing and performing. That's where all the credit should go.
I appreciate you. Thank you.
You got it. Thank you.